Hey everyone, and welcome back to Talk Tickers. We usually do a deep dive into the latest earnings calls, but today we're switching gears a bit. We got some breaking news that we just had to talk about.
Absolutely, yeah.
Amazon workers at 7 facilities across the U.S. have gone on strike.
Wow.
And we're not talking about a small protest here. This is thousands of workers walking out.
Mm-hmm.
And the timing couldn't be more crucial, right at the peak of holiday shopping.
It's definitely a bold move.
So if you're thinking, wait a second, is this going to mess with my holiday deliveries?
Uh-huh.
You are not alone. We're going to get to the bottom of what this strike means for you, the consumer, and for Amazon.
Yeah, this is a big one. It's all about timing right now. With the holiday season in full swing, this puts a ton of pressure on Amazon to deliver all those packages on time.
Right. I mean, talk about leverage.
So just to give everyone the rundown, we're talking about facilities in some pretty key locations. New York, Georgia, California, Illinois, and it's not just any workers. These are warehouse staff and delivery drivers.
Right. The essential workers.
We-
Exactly the ones who make the whole system work. And here's the thing. We know Amazon has a massive workforce. So the workers on strike, they're less than 1% of the total.
True.
So the question is, how much power do they really have?
Well, even though it's a small percentage, these are the people on the front lines, especially during the holidays. Any disruption there, and it can really throw a wrench in the whole system.
Right. I mean, think about the UPS strike back in '97. That basically shut everything down.
Exactly. It had a huge impact. And what's interesting about this strike? It can be the start of something much bigger. We're not just talking about these 7 facilities. What if this inspires workers at other Amazon locations to strike too?
Whoa.
Or even workers in other companies who are facing similar issues. That's a whole other level of disruption we're talking about.
Okay, so let's get down to the demands.
Yeah.
What are these workers actually asking for?
Okay, so they want better wages, safer working conditions, and for Amazon to officially recognize their union.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, you would think so, but for Amazon, the union part is a big deal. They've been fighting against unions for years.
Why so?
Well, think about it. A union means higher labor costs.
Yeah.
And it gives the workers more power to negotiate, which could force Amazon to make some big changes to their policies.
So how's Amazon reacting to all this?
They're trying to downplay it, saying the strike won't affect holiday deliveries. They're even saying that the union is misleading the public. And they're pointing out that some of the strikers aren't technically Amazon employees.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they work for these third-party logistics companies that Amazon contracts with. So it's like a whole web of relationships.
And I bet Amazon likes it that way. Less direct responsibility, less legal risk, more flexibility.
Exactly. It's similar to what we see with companies like Uber and Lyft. But remember that recent ruling by the National Labor Relations Board?
Yeah.
They said Amazon could be considered a joint employer in some cases.
Yeah.
So that could change things.
So even though Amazon's saying everything's fine, the stakes here are pretty high.
Absolutely. This could be a turning point for workers' rights, especially in these big tech companies. What do you think?
Definitely seems like we're witnessing a pivotal moment in this whole fight for labor rights in the digital age.
Yeah.
What happens next? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But one thing's for sure. This strike is bringing some critical issues to the forefront.
I agree.
And it's making us all think about the impact of these giant tech companies on our lives and on the lives of their workers.
Absolutely.
So stick with us. We'll be right back after the break to dive deeper into this story and explore what it all means.
Sounds good. It really could be a game changer.
So what happens now? What should we be looking for to see how this all plays out for Amazon, for the market?
Well, first, we need to see how long this strike actually lasts. If it's just a short thing, a symbolic gesture, it probably won't have a huge impact. But if it goes on for weeks, especially with Christmas right around the corner,
Oh, yeah.
then the pressure on Amazon is going to be intense.
It's a ticking clock.
Exactly. And another thing to watch is whether the strike spreads. Do workers at other Amazon facilities join in? Do we see other unions getting involved, showing support, maybe even taking action themselves? That would be a big escalation.
Yeah, like wildfire.
Right. And of course, we have to see how Amazon responds. Do they stick to their guns and refuse to negotiate? Or do they try to make a deal to end the strike quickly? Their actions will tell us a lot.
Okay, so let's say, just for argument's sake, that Amazon does decide to give the strikers what they want. What kind of impact could that have?
Well, if Amazon actually recognizes the union and starts negotiating a contract, it could set a precedent for other tech companies that are facing similar pressure from their workers.
Ah, I see.
It could embolden workers across the industry to demand more from their employers.
So this isn't just an Amazon story. It could have ripple effects throughout the entire tech sector.
Exactly. And from a financial perspective, it could change how investors value these companies. Labor costs are a major factor in any company's profitability. So if those costs start going up, it can impact earnings and potentially lead to a decline in stock prices.
Wow, this is getting complicated.
That's what makes it interesting. These seemingly small events can have huge consequences that touch so many parts of the economy. It's all connected.
Okay, so let's talk about consumers. How do you think this strike is affecting how people view Amazon?
Well, Amazon's reputation is built on convenience and reliability, especially when it comes to deliveries. If this strike causes major delays or disruptions, it could really damage people's trust in the platform.
And in today's world, reputation is everything.
Absolutely. Consumers have so many choices these days. If they start to see Amazon as unreliable, they might just go somewhere else.
Speaking of choices, this brings us to our This Is Not Financial Advice segment. Earlier, we were thinking about shorting AMZN call options and maybe going long on TGT call options. But what if we flip the script? What if this strike actually ends up being good for Amazon in the long run?
Now, that's an interesting idea. How do you see that happening?
Well, think about it. This whole situation has really put the spotlight on the challenges faced by warehouse workers and delivery drivers. It's forced a conversation about working conditions and labor rights in the digital economy.
Right. It's a PR nightmare for Amazon right now.
Exactly. But in the long term, it might push them to actually address these issues and improve their image.
I see what you're saying. So
Right.
instead of shorting AMZN call options,
We could go long on AMCN LEAP call options.
both VPs.
Yeah, those are options with a longer expiration date. That gives Amazon time to turn things around
Yeah.
and for the market to recognize and reward them for it.
Okay, so you're betting on a long-term recovery and growth story for Amazon.
Exactly. What do you think?
I like it. It's bold,
Mm-hmm.
but it could pay off big time if you're right.
Of course, this is all speculation. It's based on a lot of assumptions. But hey, that's what makes the market so exciting.
Absolutely. It's all about probabilities and managing risk. And there's one more thing we haven't talked about, the government.
Oh, yeah? Can't forget about them.
Especially in a situation like this where there are big implications for labor policy and the economy as a whole.
So what could the government do?
Well, they could try to mediate the situation, help bring the strike to a quick resolution. They could also put pressure on Amazon to negotiate with the union.
And they could even pass new laws that affect gig economy workers and their rights.
Right. This whole thing could spark some major policy changes. And it wouldn't just be Amazon that's affected. It would be the entire tech sector.
There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, it's a complex situation, but it's also an opportunity.
To learn, to
It's
adapt.
making things better.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a chance to really rethink how things work.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Amazon worker strike, what are your final thoughts? What should people be paying attention to in the coming days and weeks?
I think the biggest thing to watch is whether this strike gains momentum. Does it spread to other Amazon facilities? Does Amazon budge and start negotiating? Those are the key things to look out for. And the answers will have a huge impact, not just for Amazon, but for the entire labor movement and the future of work in the tech sector.
And of course, we need to keep an eye on those holiday delivery timelines. If
Yeah.
those start slipping, the pressure on Amazon is going to be enormous.
No doubt about it. And even beyond the immediate impact, we can't forget about the long-term consequences. This strike has raised some really fundamental questions about work in the digital age. How do we balance efficiency and innovation with the well-being of workers?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, there are no easy answers, but that's why we're here, to explore these complex issues and try to make sense of them.
Exactly. And speaking of complex issues, we always like to remind our listeners that this is not financial advice.
Always good to reiterate that.
All right, everyone, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us in this deep dive into the Amazon worker strike. We hope you found it informative and thought-provoking. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and as always, do your own research before making any investment decisions.